The UFC has suffered a major blow amid the antitrust lawsuit saga. UFC parent company Endeavor Group's stock value dropped $800 million in days following Saudi Arabia's $100 million investment into the Professional Fighters League. World Wrestling Entertainment's, better known as WWE's, stock value also dropped $1.6 billion from $9.6 billion to $8 billion after SRJ Sports Investments, a company launched by Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, acquired a minority stake in the PFL. Now, while $100 million isn't big enough to put the PFL in the same league as the UFC, it is still significant enough to get the alarm bells ringing, especially when the UFC's fighting a tricky legal battle. In 2014, more than 1,200 fighters filed an antitrust lawsuit against the UFC, alleging the promotion of abusing its market power to acquire or block rival promoters, and using exclusive contracts to keep fighters tied. In August, the plaintiffs earned a big victory after District Judge Richard Boulware granted them a class certification. The lawsuit is now a class action suit, meaning that the 1,200-plus fighters can sue the UFC for alleged unfair business. The UFC landed in more trouble when an anti-monopoly lawyer claimed that the promotion received loans exceeding $400 million to pay dividends to its owners. In 2007, nearly $200 million were given as a dividend to Zuffa owners. In 2009, more than $300,000 were paid, which were largely funded by a $100 million loan. The UFC filed an appeal with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit on August 23rd, arguing that the damages the plaintiffs are seeking are excessive. If the plaintiffs won, the UFC could end up losing everything it has worked so hard for. Could this be the end of the UFC? Moving on, Megan Olivi was recently called a Karen by a social media user, and she didn't hold back. Before we find out the full story, please subscribe to Takedown MMA and turn on those notifications. Thank you. Megan Olivi is hands down one of the most popular personalities in the world of mixed martial arts. She is hardworking, does her job to perfection, and is far from controversial. Yet, a few fans dislike her for some odd reason. A UFC fan recently called Olivi a Karen. But why? Well, because he didn't like the way she handled a fan's question directed towards Belal Muhammad during a UFC fighter Q&A session.
I'm good, thank you.
This question's for Belal. You think you could win a street fight by decision?
That's a great question. I'll meet you outside, and then we'll find out.
You and me? Right here.
Listen, you're not tough, and we're not gonna do that again. I'll shut the mics off. Go over here. I did see you flexing, yes, on the camera, so go ahead.
Instagram user Carl didn't like Olivi's response to the troll and accused her of going full Karen on him. This is how Olivi responded, and I quote, "Oh, I disappointed you, Carl? It's my job to be the bad guy up there. I'd rather you call me a Karen for protecting fighters from incessant bullshit and people looking for viral moments than sitting up there not doing my job and letting the disrespect flow. Were you there? Did you also hear the vitriol being yelled at by fandoms in the crowd? No. They're professional athletes who give their time for fans, not your punching bag because you watch them on TV. I will always put the fighters first. Get mad about it." Huh, you go, Queen. Francis Ngannou is working exceptionally hard for his boxing debut against Tyson Fury in Saudi Arabia in October. The Cameroonian is being sharpened by Iron Mike Tyson, and a recent clip of the two training together has drawn mixed reactions from fight fans. Here's the video.
Whoa! Yeah. And then after you do that, when you do the right hand, the last right hand, right? Boom. That's the last punch. Do the right hand, left hook too. That was beautiful. Left hook, rip it. So you put rip it with everything you got. I don't care if you're tired, everything you got. Oh, working.
Fight fans are divided over the video. Some are extremely impressed with Ngannou's boxing improvements, and they think Fury is in for a real shock. One Twitter user said, quote, "Ngannou is so wild and unorthodox. He's got much more of a puncher's chance than Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. He shouldn't really be able to lay a glove on Fury, though." Another one said, quote, "I think he's going to knock Tyson Fury out, unless that fool cheats again." Some weren't impressed, and I quote, Ngannou doesn't have the fluidity or movement to throw the basic peekaboo combinations. Another user said, "It tells me he will get knocked the f*** out quicker than I originally thought." What are your thoughts? Natan Levy recently revealed that he was paid his show and win money after Pete Rodriguez pulled out of their scheduled bouts at UFC Vegas 72 and UFC on ABC4. Since the revelation came a few weeks after the Stephen Thompson saga, MMA fans were quick to call out the UFC for its double standards. Wonderboy withdrew from his scheduled bout against Michel Pereira at UFC 291 because the Brazilian missed the welterweight limit by 3 pounds. The UFC is yet to hand Wonderboy his show money. If Levy got his, why isn't Wonderboy getting paid? Fight fans have mixed reactions. One MMA fan called the UFC petty, saying, quote, "They paid Levy? And they made so much fuss about Wonderboy. The UFC is just petty sometimes." Another one said, quote, "I can already hear folks grumbling about the Wonderboy situation. Levy probably getting $20,000 to show and $20,000 to win at best. Wonderboy is in the 6 digits for his show money alone, if I'm not mistaken. Also, last we heard, Dana said he'd reach out and at least get training camp expenses covered for Wonderboy." What do you guys think? Daniel Cormier doesn't believe John Jones is scared of heavyweight prospects like Tom Aspinall and Sergey Pavlovich. The GOAT is simply looking at things from a business point of view. Jones will make his return to the cage at UFC 295, where he puts his heavyweight title on the line in one of the biggest fights in the division's history against Stipe Miocic. Since it's such a massive fight, it's expected to surpass the 700,000 pay-per-view sales that Jones's fight against Cyril Gane at UFC 285 did. That's what Jones wants. He wants more pay-per-view sales, more eyes on his fights, and a ton of money. With Aspinall and Pavlovich, Cormier thinks he may not get all of that.
He just isn't interested because now he's weighing the business versus the actual competition. But to me, I feel like John Jones in a headliner, it don't really change much in regards to who he's fighting. He did over 700,000 buys against Cyril Gane. He would probably do 700,000 buys against Tom Aspinall. He'd do 700 against Sergey Pavlovich. So what is he saying in this instance? He just doesn't want to fight those young, hard punching, hard charging guys?
Do you agree with Daniel Cormier? Moving on, Marlon Vera believes Aljamain Sterling f***ed up against Sean O'Malley at UFC 292, where he lost his bantamweight title after getting stopped in the second round. Vera, who is the only person to beat O'Malley, is now eyeing a rematch with Sugar Sean with the title on the line. Should he fight O'Malley next, Vera believes he won't make the same mistakes as Sterling. But what went wrong for Sterling?
I think his mind wasn't ready for the pressure of the lights, for the magnitude of the event, and I believe Aljamain, he beat Cejudo in Brooklyn. He should be you. I'm fighting in December. You want to strip me? Strip me.
Agree 100% with you.
And he kind of like went like, oh, I want to make $1 million or maybe over. I'm gonna just do it.
Sterling didn't want to compete at UFC 292. He wanted to undergo a few tests following his title defense against Henry Cejudo at UFC 288, but the UFC pressured him into accepting the fight. If Vera was in his position, this is how he would have handled the situation.
If I'm him, I would be like, you have 2 options. Have him wait for December, or have him for the interim belt, and he meet me in December, or strip me, and I just fight the winner in December.
Agree.
He's the same.
I agree.
He's the same.
It's a real miscalculation on his.
Do you agree with Marlon Vera that Aljamain Sterling f***ed up? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. To stay up to date with the latest happenings in the world of mixed martial arts and boxing, please subscribe to Takedown MMA and turn on your notifications. Thank you for your continued love and support, and we'll see you in the next one.